everybody. My name is Philip Shepard. I'm a local real estate agent located right here in Northwest Arkansas. And today we're talking about the Northwest Arkansas Council. Maybe you've heard of them, maybe you haven't. The Northwest Arkansas Council is helping guide Northwest Arkansas all together to make sure we avoid the pitfalls of a major large city. So let's talk about that. But before we begin, if you could like this video and also subscribe, that would make the world a difference. I try to produce as much content as humanly possible about Northwest Arkansas, just trying to make sure that my content goes in front of the right people at the right time looking to move here. Hey, that could be you. So thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it. All right, so this is going to be broken up in a couple different ways. The first part is about what the Northwest Arkansas Council is, and then that's going to be like the first quarter of it, and the second half-ish is going to be what the next 5 years look like using actually with the council itself. So if you aren't aware, there's a Northwest Arkansas Council, and this is kind of like a group of people that own small businesses, mid-sized businesses, and large businesses, of course, including Simmons Food, JB Hunt, Tyson, Walmart, and a lot of other marketing companies and different stuff like that. What they got together to do many years ago, they decided to make a council to help improve Northwest Arkansas, of course. And so for the last every 5 years or so, they make an initiative, a plan, and they kind of map out the next 5 years ahead of time. So they have initiatives and goals and things they want to accomplish for the next 5 years. And so it's really cool. And I find this fascinating is because the fact that usually this is kind of regulated to a city council. But the thing with Northwest Arkansas is that it's one major big area with one big kind of intention is to help grow the area and make it as awesome as possible. And so the Northwest Arkansas Council really oversees a lot of the initiatives that happen in the area, whether it's in Fayetteville, Bentonville, Rogers, it doesn't make a difference. It's one big council that helps along with everything. Now, there are individual councils within the actual cities themselves, of course, and the cities have city planners, the whole thing. But the council itself is looking over the whole area and kind of helping guide that kind of pathway to avoiding some of the pitfalls and trying to make sure that the NWA stays as magical as it really is. So a little backstory here with the council. 5 years ago, they hired a kind of a city planner, like so to speak, a big firm that came in and did a whole basically slew of investigation about the area. They do this every 5 years, and they made a plan for 5 years, this is 5 years ago, to make NWA as awesome as possible. And they had their own plan. Plan was executed very well, and then they brought the same company back in. And in the meantime, that company did other cities as well, meaning like Austin and other big cities, and they came in to help with Northwest Arkansas. The cool thing is that that actual planner came in and gave a big long speech in front of the council, helping them guide what the next 5 years for Northwest Arkansas should look like and some caveats we need to watch out for. So they came in, they've seen these big pitfalls of major cities, and they're giving us warning signs to say, hey, Northwest Arkansas, first of all, I'll link the video below, is doing fantastic. You guys are growing well, all the different things. But with every big growth comes things you gotta watch out for. And so the next 5-year plan are things that continued growth, obviously, and on top of that, things we need to watch out for. So we're going to talk about today are the 5 things that the council is going to be focused on for the next 5 years to make sure that NWA stays as magical and great as it is currently as we speak. So the first thing on the council's plan, and this is all linked below in the long PDF, and you're probably thinking to yourself, Philip, have you read through this? Yes, I have every single word, of course. I love what I do. But the link below, if you want to download the PDF and just kind of go through it, more than welcome to. But the first thing that they're going to be focusing on is talent acquisition to Northwest Arkansas. So the last 5 years, obviously 10 years, Northwest Arkansas has grown exponentially. And there's been a lot more people that have moved here for jobs and either remote work for obvious reasons why there's a lot more remote work available. So there's a lot more people here that have fantastic jobs, but at the same time, it drew a lot of businesses as well. And so there's just a slew of thousands and thousands of openings of jobs that need to be filled, whether it's through different big companies, mid-sized companies, or small businesses that just need to be filled because there's so many more businesses here. And so the biggest thing that Northwest Arkansas is focusing on in the top one is talent acquisition to Northwest Arkansas. And this goes back a little bit to the Life Works Here actual initiative that they did for the last couple of years, which was the bike and Bitcoin thing where basically you can apply, get $10,000 or Bitcoin or a bike, and be basically, if you move here, you get those things, you can apply for that and you get that. So it's really cool. So that was a big initiative. They're planning more initiatives, and they're planning all sorts of different wild things, of course, per usual. But they are continuing to push more talent, more acquisition, more people to move here that obviously have different skill sets, whether it's skilled labor or more like technology or medical. They want everyone to come here because there's so much need for people to be here in Northwest Arkansas. And the second thing they'll be focusing on is kind of bolstering innovation and entrepreneurship in the area. So a little unknown fact, in America, there's different hubs in America that different cities focus on. For instance, you have Boston, you have New Jersey, you have New York, you have Washington, D.C., so that strip up there. You have different cities in Florida, you have different cities in Texas like Dallas, Houston, and Austin. You have California, which is either San Diego and LA. You have Portland, Seattle. The thing is that Tulsa and Northwest Arkansas are really connected, and there's one major road that connects them. It's called 412 or the 412, and they're leveraging that road a lot to actually grow that whole area in between those areas. So that also connects the Oklahoma Turnpike. So it's really cool that there's so much manufacturing coming to that area and so many more businesses that can leverage that massive highway, that can use that to build out basically a huge infrastructure between Tulsa and Oklahoma. So Northwest Arkansas is working with Tulsa to bring more innovation, more entrepreneurship, more startup companies, more venture capitalists to this area to connect that kind of like connection point in like the heartland of America. And so it's really cool to see one of the big initiatives that the council is focusing on is making that connection between Tulsa and Northwest Arkansas, but at the same time, doubling down on our entrepreneurship in North Arkansas between Bentonville and all the different venture capitalists that are moving here, and Fayetteville between the university and the medical side. So there's so many startup businesses and future startup businesses that are coming here that they need, once again, more talent. But secondly, they continue to want more businesses to come here because they're making it so easy and accessible to build a business right here in Northwest Arkansas. That reminds me. I have a 3-day itinerary. So maybe you're thinking about moving down to Northwest Arkansas and you're quickly realizing, oh my gosh, there's so much to do, because there's so much to do. There's a 3-day itinerary linked down below for you. So maybe you're a sports person, maybe you're a venture, maybe you have kids, maybe you're a foodie, maybe you're a sightseer. There's a 3-day itinerary linked down below that I made directly for you. So the thing, you can download it, print it off, and come down here and just have a ball in Northwest Arkansas. Also, when you do come down here, I can kind of give you the $10 tour so I can show you around the whole area. Plus, we can check out some homes for sale or for rent and see how far your dollar will go in Northwest Arkansas compared to where you're coming from. And thirdly, and this is kind of on the top of my list because obviously this is what I'm in, but affordable housing. So it's really cool to see the actual council being focused on affordable housing. There are a couple home builders on the council themselves and other real estate companies as well, so that obviously dabble in investments and real estate. So it's good to have that kind of input from larger companies that have kind of a pulse on the market around Northwest Arkansas. So I'm glad for that. But it's cool to see them actually invest into affordable housing. So they have a list of different initiatives that they're trying to do that will flesh out the next couple of years. One of them that I'm really excited about is kind of like a fund that's going to be basically a fund for people to pull from for local loans here in Northwest Arkansas. So for instance, obviously there's going to be like, let's say a large fund of money that's going to be there to lend out to people that at a lower interest rate to make sure that housing is affordable still here in Northwest Arkansas. And I'm sure there's other ways that they're going to go about this that you really can't talk publicly about. For instance, like I'm sure there's things in the works about like if there's a large subdivision that they don't want necessarily the actual subdivision to be rented out for renters for the first 2 years. Or maybe, for instance, they don't want a large apartment complex being torn down. They'd rather have, built back up or give money to make sure it's just maintained. Stuff like that. They want more houses on here and they want to make it more affordable. Sometimes it means that they might go up in apartments, or then it means they go out this direction as well. But long story short is that one of the major focuses for the council is affordable housing. Now, secretly, the reason I think this is happening, and beyond the fact that, obviously affordable housing needs to be affordable, we know that. We've seen the problems of Austin, we've seen the problems of Los Angeles, but the really interesting thing is the fact that a lot of, obviously, Walmart, Tyson, JB Hunt, if they keep bringing out these corporate people, because they're obviously growing out their corporate structure a lot, they don't want to pay a higher salary for their people because their housing is unaffordable. So there's kind of I would say an underground thing happening where like, I'm sure that a lot of big companies want to make sure that housing is affordable, because if the housing goes up, that means everything goes with them. That means cost goes up, which means it really does affect their stock price at the end of it all. So there's a big underground initiative to make sure that housing stays affordable for everyone across the board in Northwest Arkansas, and they are working on that very diligently, I can assure you that. And this goes back to the affordable housing options. They did talk about this in the report, but on top of affordable housing, they are going to continue to make sure that NWA is completely, as much as possible, bikeable, walkable, and they've also done a big initiative for the next probably 10 or 15 years, 20 years, about flying cars. They've also done a major initiative and a big fund for the future of mobility. So beyond biking, beyond electric vehicles, they are really focused on, flying cars, drones, and any sort of air mobility. They're really focusing on that in the next like 10 or 15 years because they really want to be ahead of the curve versus kind of like falling behind when it comes to like, EV manufacturer is really cool. It's still up and coming, but they want to be like the next step above that. And fourthly, one thing that's really important to me is they want to keep the charm of Northwest Arkansas while at the same time maintaining growth. So part of the reason why I moved to Northwest Arkansas a couple years back was the fact that it has this really fascinating charm. And some of my clients have called it this unicorn, this really special place where it's like this kind of blend of, I wouldn't say wilderness, but like trees and organic and green. You feel like you're in like really in the mountains or in a forest in a lot of ways. And so they really want to make sure that charm is there between the older buildings and the older styles. They don't want to rip things down just to build up new things necessarily. They want to keep that style there, that really special place that makes Fayetteville special, that makes Springdale special, Rogers and Bentonville special. They don't want to lose that for the sake of growth, but at the same time, they don't want to hinder growth. So they're trying to balance this really intentional thing of like trying to keep the charm of Northwest Arkansas, because once you lose the charm, you know, that's part of a little bit of the pie is the charm of Northwest Arkansas. It has so much more to offer than the charm. You can see all my videos, we know this. But the charm is really a fascinating thing about Northwest Arkansas, because it is this really unique place in America, the center of America, where mountains and trees and just, you know, rivers and streams and lakes. So it's a really unique place, and the council's dead focused on making sure it does not lose that charm. Out of everything they could choose to focus on, and if that's one of the 4 things, that's really cool to see. And this 5th one is really interesting because at some point you think like, you know, what else can they add in there? And you know, one of the big focuses, but the 5th one is really interesting because it's actually more intentionality with the council itself. So, and I'm for this. So a lot of bigger cities don't have councils like the Northwest Arkansas Council. And so they usually have city councils, and there's a lot of politics involved and etc. The council is a separate entity that sits away from the cities with less red tape that can implement basically a fund of money to put back into the community a lot faster than a city could ever do. So it's really cool that I'm in favor of the council being more invested, because they have less red tape to jump through, less political stuff, so they can move a lot faster and get things done quicker than a city sometimes can. And so it is interesting the fact that they are going to be more intentional. They are bringing on more council members. They are bringing on more basically sponsorships and people that are more invested into the community. So they're more focused on, you know, putting different people in committees to make sure that things get done. So I do find it fascinating the fact that the council is expanding its reach in a sense that it's going to try to be more influential in the community in the whole area versus always allowing it up to city governments essentially. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. I really appreciate you guys watching. Again, if you are thinking about moving down to Northwest Arkansas, download my 3-day itinerary link below. Maybe you're an adventurer, maybe you're a sports person, maybe you're a foodie like me. Download my 3-day itinerary link below. It'll save you so much time because there's so much to do in Northwest Arkansas. Also, when you do come down here, definitely give me a call because I can give you the $10 tour, share around the whole area. Plus, I can show you some homes for sale or for rent, and we can see how far your dollar will go in Northwest Arkansas compared to where you're coming from. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next one.